table it or something? I think they had more money, and I think we could.
I think they need
She went to get something. She went to get something. Yeah, don't worry.
Is,
mental illness.
who is Miss Eichhorn not?
Except, yeah, that's.
Eichhorn?
He's outside talking.
Oh,
Thank
is he
you.
here? Okay. Oh, there he is, okay.
Yeah.
But he's at Thomas Cameron. Justin, is he on Senate time?
Maybe.
Infrastructure in place where they can be provided.
Forgotten one of his wig and robe, didn't he?
Okay, good. So you're ready to go.
Anyway. Call meeting of the IRRB board to order. Roll call, all members present. Like a motion to approve the September 9th, 2019 minutes. Motion by Representative Sandstead,
Second.
second by Representative Lewick. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Before we go to commissioners' comments, we are going to move, due to some scheduling for some of the people, we're going to move item number 7 up to underneath commissioners' comments, and then I have the order written that we're going to take for item number 7. That's the scheduling. Commissioner.
Great. Well,
Phillips.
I'll be brief. Just a couple things I want to point out to the board, because I've, since I've been here for almost 5 years, I've been really preaching leveraging our money to get the most bang for our buck with these hard to come by taconite dollars. So I've been preaching leverage, leverage, leverage. So I had somebody do the math for me, assuming they did it correctly. So we have about 20 grant projects today on the agenda that total about $3.6 million. The total investment for those projects is about $41 million. So we're leveraging our money like 11 to 1 on these projects. So I just wanted to point that out to the board. Even on our trail projects are 1.4 million. The total investment's 5.3, about 3 to 1 with other projects. The other things I just wanted to point out is that we had a huge investment in this Evelyn Gilbert, Virginia school project, and I know there's been publicity about it and stuff, but just to give you an update, the respective school boards have approved a joint powers agreement and appointed representatives to the joint powers board that are going to manage this school until the school districts can consolidate. Their consolidation has been put on a fast track. They've submitted a plan to the Minnesota Department of Education, and the goal is to be fully consolidated by July 1st, 2020. So things are moving in the direction that we were all told they were going to. Just for an update on that. They are in the process of trying to name the school and pick the school colors and everything. It didn't go my way, the one that I wanted, but I'm not even sure where it's going, but they're working on that. They've sold the bonds at a very favorable rate, so they actually should be able to meet their budgets and everything like that. They've acquired the land they wanted to acquire, and that's all been done. The design process is continuing. And so the new school is scheduled to open in the fall of '22. The new Evelyn, Virginia Elementary School in September of '21, so a year earlier, that elementary will open. And the Virginia Elementary, because they're going to move and then demolish, will be completed in September of '23. So that's just a real quick update. If there are questions, I would suggest we get them to Roy. I can answer what I can.
Did I just hear you?
Sandstead.
Thank you, Chair. Did I understand, Commissioner, you just said that in Virginia they would move and then just
I believe they're going to
deconstruct?
move, I think they're going to move in, I might have it wrong, but
maybe
the technical building or something, and
Okay.
then, yeah.
Okay, so it's not a physical
No,
move,
no.
it's more of a, maybe a
Within
renovation
the
and then an
complex,
elimination
yeah.
of part.
Correct.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yep. The other thing I want to point out to the board, we've been working in Silver Bay. I was approached by the Department of Veterans Affairs about their nursing home there, and that they were having trouble filling some of the positions. And these are really good state jobs at the Veterans Nursing Home there. And what we found is there's absolutely no childcare in Silver Bay. And there was one in-home child facility that's scheduled to close, I guess, or be temporarily out of commission. So we've been working with the community, with the city, the school district, the vet's home, and some other people, local interested businesses and things like that. So we are evaluating the situation. It looks like the school district's willing to operate. It looks like the city is willing to own. The local business is going to donate a building to the city. So we will probably be coming back to the board at some time for some improvements to that building, which we expect will be, also there'll be other players contributing to that as well, not just us. But so this workforce shortage issue and childcare and housing all seem to be tied together around our whole region, but that's one I just wanted to fill you in on. And Cliffs is one of the partners up there in Silver Bay, who is a big player. They're one of our partners in this effort as well. And then lastly, I just want to point out Roy Smith. Roy, raise your hand. Roy was appointed by Governor Walz to the Governor's Workforce Development Board, so we're very happy to have a representative from our region and somebody that we work with so closely on that board. And that is all I have. I'd stand for any questions if anybody had any.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. Any questions for the Commissioner? All right, moving on. The TEDF projects, item 7 on the agenda. And first up will be United Taconite.
Chairman Eklund, board members, today we have 6 mining companies requesting $9,224,587 in TDF funding for their projects. A total combined project investment between the 6 properties, including the available TDF funding for 2019, is $25 million. First project we have up today is the United Taconite. We do have Chad Asgard, Adam Riddell, the controller, Todd Nelson, a controller, as well as Dan Hill, the union president, in the audience. If there's any questions, I will introduce the projects. The project is for $991,169. It's for a ball mill number 3 shell replacement. Total project investment is $2.8. In 2018, United Taconite installed a replacement shell, a number 3 ball mill. The mill is one of 5 mills lines that reside in the United Taconite's concentrator. Production capacity is evenly balanced throughout the site, and any disruptions throughout the system can result in lost production. If there's any questions, I would have the company representatives come up and address the project if needed.
Senator Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, and the unions have signed off on all of these?
Correct.
Correct.
Yes, Chairman Eklund, board members, yes.
No, I'll move it.
Senator Thomasoni moves resolution 20-012. Representative Lizagard seconds. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Ooh, let's make some noise here, Rob. Number 2 is ArcelorMittal.
Chairman Eklund, board members, ArcelorMittal's request is for $682,024. Project number 1 is for a C-filter tape bin replacement. Total project dollars are $390,000. The objective of this project is to eliminate the risk of the concentrator bin failure and associated risk to Menorca's pellet production. Project number 2, flux plant structural steel replacement. Project investment, $278,000. This project provides new structural steel to support the flux stone crusher feed conveyor, including drip pans. Project number 3, pellet plant structural steel replacement, investment $500,000. This project provides for replacement steel for the 16-18 floor, which supports the discharge end of Menorca's furnace. Project 4, finisher, investment $300,000. This project will replace the support steel structural steel on the remaining 4 finishers. And Project 5, classifier cob area structural steel replacement, investment $642,000. The project will enhance safety by utilizing a staircase for maintenance instead of a rung ladders, which were historically used. Here from ArcelorMittal are Rob Peterson, Operations Manager, Steve Meckes, Manager, Operating Technology, as well as Harold Anderson from the union. If there's any questions, I would have them come up and answer for the board if needed.
Questions of the board? Representative Lisgard moves resolution 20-009, seconded by Senator Rude. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign, motion carries.
Chairman Eklund, board members, the next project we have is for Hibbing Taconite Company. Request is for $1,913,180. We have Ed Latendresse here, the general manager. The project is for a SD1 seepage cutoff wall basin. Total project investment is for $4,492,856. A vertical seepage cutoff wall utilizing deep soil mixture techniques was installed in the upstream portion of the starter Dam 1 on Hibbing Taconite's tailored storage facility. The seepage cutoff wall was found to be the best available alternative to the transition zone needed to lower the water saturation from the upstream pond to the downstream swale. This is a large component in advancing desired dam stability. And if there are any questions, I would call General Manager Ed Latendresse to the table.
Representative Lehman.
Layman, yeah.
Sorry. I haven't seen you for a while.
Yeah, just a general question, because I've kind of forgotten the protocol here, but are some of these projects yet to be completed and some of these projects already completed?
Yes, some of them are a continuation, Chairman Eklund,
Okay.
board members. Some of the projects are a continuation of past projects and some are new projects per past protocol and the statute allows for
Okay,
that.
it sounds like
Representative
this,
Lehman.
it sounds like this particular project has been completed already. The seepage cutoff wall, basically.
was installed.
Yeah, it was installed, right.
Just Commissioner.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if you recall, we had proposed some legislative changes to TDF a couple of years ago, and we were recommending that maybe we should get all the projects before they started or whatever. And we met with the companies, and I think everybody, including the legislative delegation, agreed. They convinced us that some of these projects have to be longer term and maybe started before they approach us. So, I mean, we did debate that issue on whether they
Okay,
should
well,
be.
you're jogging my memory then, because I
Right.
wasn't remembering that.
Correct.
Senator Bach.
Thank you.
Questions for Ms. Johnson? Representative Sandsted moves resolution 20-010, seconded by Senator Thomasoni. Further discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. All the same sign, motion carries.
Chairman Eklund, board members, the next project we have is for North Shore Mining Company. Total project investment, our request is for $1,398,015. From North Shore, today we have Paul Carlson, the general manager, as well as Sandy Kronowski, Director Manager of Public Affairs, as well as Nolan Koskala, the controller. The project is for a Conveyor 1 low silica project. Total project investment is for $5,114,534. This project calls for a yard conveyor for the direct reduction grade pellet transportation. The direct reduction pellet transfers from the furnace discharge conveyors to the Conveyor 1, which moves the pellets to the north end of the pellet storage yard. Any questions?
Any questions from the board? Seeing none, Senator Bach moves resolution 20-011, seconded by Representative Lewick. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, the same sign, motion carries.
Chairman Eklund, board members, the next project we have is for U.S. Steel Key-Tac. Total request is for $908,797. Project number 1 is for the Key-Tac main transformer upgrade. Total investment, $1.3 million. The project will replace the second of 6 plant incoming transformers and corresponding protective relay equipment. Project number 2, Keetac Mine Extension, $900,000. Minnesota Ore Operations Keetac Annual Operating Plan calls for a 19.1 million ton of crude ore to meet the forecasted pellet production. The long-range mine plan requires the footprint of the mine extending south and east to uncover and extract the needed iron ore. The continual extending of the mine footprint requires upgrades and extensions to the electrical infrastructure as well as the mine dewatering system. This purchase and equipment installation to expand and upgrade the mine dewatering system will allow for continued advancement. If there are any questions, I would.
Questions from the board?
And we have Larry Sutherland and Rob Wilman here from U.S. Steel, Keetac.
Seeing no questions, Representative Sandsted moves Resolution 20-013, seconded by Representative Lehman. Further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, the same sign. Motion carries.
Chairman Eklund, board members, the next project we have is for U.S. Steel Keetac. Total request is for $3,331,402. Project number 1 is for the Mintac Line 3 and 4 pre-classification investment, $5 million. This project will be adding pre-classification equipment to steps 1 and 2 concentrating lines in the concentrator. Converting lines 3 and 4 will be first. Project number 2, Mintac Mine Extension, $1.5 million. This project is for the purchase and installation of equipment to extend the electrical infrastructure and mine dewatering systems to enable the first phase of the mining in permitting areas to the south. The project also allows for exploratory drilling and analysis in the new areas of the mine planning effort. Project 3, Mintac Dark River Seep Collection, $1.5 million investment. This project will install a seep collection and pump back system on the western perimeter of the tailing basin dike, similar to the system previously installed on the eastern perimeter. And again, if there's any questions, Larry Sutherland, General Manager, as well as Rob Wilmanen, Engineer Site Manager, are here to answer your questions.
Mr. Chairman, we have to get at least one general manager up here to talk to So, Mr. Chairman, this, for the people who might be watching and don't know exactly what we're doing right now, this is a rebate program to the mines, and it's leveraged by the companies putting money, at least a one-to-one match for the money they're getting back from us. And it's been going on for at least 20 years that I know of, if not longer. And I just need someone in the industry to make a comment on how much you've leveraged over the years from the company itself and how important it is to the mining operation itself to actually get this money coming back to you and being able to tell the people out east how we're supporting the industry and how they need to support the industry also.
Mr. Sutherland.
Yeah, so Commissioner and delegation here, thank you for the opportunity to speak. U.S. Steel has expended about $125 million in capital over the last 12 to 14 months. This includes some mobile equipment, some new shovels, in fact 2 new electric shovels, a P&H 2800, several mining trucks, and a lot of plant infrastructure improvements that help with yield efficiency of our concentrates. The pre-class project is a good example of that. So it gives us availability to offload some of the silica before it reports to our float plant. So it helps with silica removal and concentrate yield improvement through the concentrator before that material is pumped to the agglomerators for pelletizing. Several other projects, new HPGR, high pressure grinding roll that isn't on the list, but I'm just going through some of the capital we spend outside of what we bring to the IRRB for improvement. So these are large capital expenditures to help improve the reliability and competitiveness of our facilities, which we absolutely need to maintain that in the state of Minnesota to maintain that competitive pellet process as we compete with the rest of the world. only 2% of the world's iron ore is produced here on the Iron Range in Minnesota, so it's incumbent upon us to continue with energy efficiency, yield efficiency projects to help us compete with the rest of the 98% that who knows if they're maintaining environmental compliance and safety protocols as we do. In fact, we're having a record year on safety at our U.S. Steel operations with around a 0.9 of OSHA or MSHA recordable rate cases. So these are the type of sustainable improvements we maintain in our mining operations to help continue to employ our people and invest in our communities.
Senator Thomas.
We should probably point out that Minnesota provides 95% of all the domestic ore that is mined.
It's true, Senator.
And then remind me of how much energy you use at your plant.
Well, we use at U.S. Steel alone, and that's not including our 14.7% ownership of the HIPTAC JV, but Mintag, Keytag, we use about 305 megawatts of generated electricity. That's the largest private consumer of electricity in the state of Minnesota, and MP&L's largest customers. We continue to invest in energy efficiency to do the right thing to try to reduce that load. It's not only a cost component, but it helps with the reliability of the whole electrical infrastructure in the MESA regions where that electricity is utilized. So.
I think that's more than the whole city of Minneapolis.
Senator Thomas.
Yeah.
It's Senator Bach.
Mr. Chairman, I was going to get my point. Just Mintag is more than the entire city of Minneapolis. You can imagine.
Representative
Remind our
Liziger.
Metro colleagues of that the cost of energy matters up here.
Liziger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to commend you and the other general managers and labor to stand together and be committed to advancing this. I think it's a true testament when business and labor work with communities for this industry. So
Thank you, Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Senator. One thing I'd like to compliment you and the others on is that the incident rate. That's impressive. Employees going home not hurt are good employees, and they'll be more productive. So that's the industry. Be proud of where they're at on that. Representative Lehman.
I just can't help but say, I think the governor's up here today. It would be nice if the governor could tour, tour Mintag and then zip on over to Minnesota Power, Clay Boswell plant in Cohasset, and see the connection between the two, and understand the importance of reliable energy sources in the state of Minnesota.
We will certainly entertain any invite like that with the delegation that would like to bring him through our facilities, and we welcome that.
I think that would be a productive visit.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? Representative Liziger moves resolution 20-014, second by Senator Eichmann. Further discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, the same sign. Carries. One last comment that was in our packets here. If you take a look at the total, TEDF funds $9,224,587, and total project cost is $24,717,090. That's pretty good amount of investment in our community through these mining operations. Senator Bach.
Well, Mr. Chairman, and to all the general managers and to the steelworker bargaining units, thanks for bringing us projects that extend the mine life. I mean, that's really what I see here, and that is really was the range delegation's vision back in 1992 when they created this fund, is let's participate at the agency here, help leverage money out of the corporate offices to extend the life of the mine. And it looks to me like these are all good projects that do that, so my congratulations to Representative Liziger's point, labor and management getting together in both of their self-interest and bringing us projects that actually make sure that the mine lives are extended. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the agenda, item number 4, HVAC project and facility improvement, resolution 20-006. Jeffrey, are you leading this?
I am.
Ward.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I have the resolution 20006 today to ask for a $800,000 budget amendment approval. This would be coming out of the board account carry forward funds for additional funding. The main purpose is for the HVAC system, which we talked about back when our original budget was approved. $450,000 was initially approved, but after, meeting with Rex at building construction, the scope has turned into much bigger than we anticipated for this building. And and the majority of the 650 is addition, is an addition to the original 450, but we do have a little 150,000 for some office resizing potentially to happen here, for more bodies. But today I have our COO and our facility supervisor here to give you a bigger picture of this project. I will hand it over to Mary Ann. And
Mr. Chairman, board members, as Bob has stated, we need to increase the budget to cover the total cost of the project, which is $1,250,000. After further analysis and engineering, it became pretty obvious that we have a complete HVAC retrofit that needs to occur here, not just a heat pump replacement. These changes are necessary to meet code and safety requirements. These are also necessary improvements to the facility to continue to occupy the building over time. The project will address some resizing opportunities, something that is just timely. We should do it at the same time rather than try and do it at another point in the future. So we will integrate that into the activities. The reason we're asking you for this additional funding mid-year is that we'd like to complete the work during summer of 2020. That means we would have to bid the project out in January, and we must have all funds available to encumber at that time. I also have at the table today, if you haven't met him, Josh Geen, the agency's facilities supervisor, and he can answer any specific questions that you have about the project because he is our project coordinator. And we also have on board in the room today Fiona Robinson, a mechanical designer with our engineering firm, over Meyer Nelson Engineering, if you want to get very specific with any questions. So, thank you.
Mr. Dean, welcome to the...
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any questions from anybody here on the board? Commissioner.
Yeah, so just to re-emphasize, so at the time in 1970, I guess, or something, the air source heat pump system in this building was quite a forward-looking thing at that moment in time. But technology has really been advanced, but we thought we could change those heat pumps out without changing the piping and some of the other things. And then the only room in this building that has air handling equipment is this room. None of our offices have air exchange systems or anything like that. So when we brought the state in, they used acronyms. So Rex is the state of Minnesota Architect's Office people that manage our construction. They said, we won't allow you to upgrade just partial upgrade. You have to bring the whole building up to code. So that's why we're back here wanting to build it out. But I also think for our employees, putting in proper air handling equipment and making our air healthier and something. And the building really is in great shape. It's been really well maintained. So I look at it as, we're just, now we're bringing the HVAC up to code, and we should have a building that'll last us a long time, so.
Any other question? Thank you, Commissioner. I'd just like to comment, having sat on capital investment and seeing where some of our asset preservation stuff is at in the state, I appreciate the agency being moving this forward sooner rather than later. Any other questions? Representative Lewick moves resolution 20-006, seconded by Senator Root. Further discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next up, Stern Assembly, Resolution 20-007.
Get warm.
Sunbelt, welcome. Please identify yourselves for the record.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, our first project up on our loan side is Stern Assembly. The total project investment here is $250,000. We'll participate with Bank Vista of Sartell for $125,000. And the loan is to complete the equipment purchases at the former Premier Plastics building in Hoyt Lakes. And I have with here is Sean Hudson from Stern Assembly, and he can talk about the project if you guys have questions.
Welcome to the board. Please identify yourself for the record.
Yeah, my name is Sean Hunstead. I'm owner of Stern Companies.
Is this project going to be good for us?
Well, we've got 10, soon to be 11 employees hired already. We'll have another 10 more we anticipate through the course of 2020. So it's been good for us too.
Any questions from the board on this project? Representative Lizagard moves Resolution 20-007, seconded by Senator Thomasoni. Further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Resolution 20-008, Ely State Theater.
Okay, our second development project is the direct loan to John Tanner Ott and Ely State Theater LLC for the purpose of basically working capital on the completion of the theater while the Ely State Theater is moving through the state tax credit process. And I have with me John Tanner Ott here. You guys have questions?
Mr. Ott, welcome to the board.
Thank you.
Representative Lehman.
Well, I don't have a question so much as I just commend the Ott family for the investment that you're making in the city of Ely. I was on the Entrepreneur Fund board before I became a legislator, and we had in fact, I met you then. We had a tour of Ely, and it was very exciting to see that your family has come in, purchased these older buildings, remodeled them, repurposed them, and it's really added to the vibrancy of the whole community. And so this might be kind of an unusual investment for us to make as an agency, but this is what makes for livable communities on the Iron Range, and I think that that's just commendable. So I don't have a question for you. I'm glad that we can be part of it.
Senator Bach.
Well, Mr. Chairman, maybe the staff, anytime we put money into a project after it's built, I generally ask the question about the issue of prevailing wages when the state puts money into projects like this, whether they were paid on the project or not, because I wouldn't want to see projects done outside of the state requirement of prevailing wages when the money just happens to come after the project is done.
So,
Mr. Ott.
Prevailing wages weren't paid to every contractor on the project.
We're
not.
We're not.
No.
Further discussion, Senator Bach.
That's a problem.
That is a problem. Well, Commissioner.
Mr. Chairman, I am not sure about this now. So we were approached by the city on this, and this is, the theater itself is, I view it as a community development project for the community, and I believe the tail end of this project had a lot to do with the equipment and stuff like that. So I'm not absolutely sure. I would ask the question if this money had anything to do with the construction, or if it had more to do with the equipment and the tail end. So,
Mr. Ott?
There were certainly sections or different portions of the project where prevailing wages were paid. Many of the categories from the mechanicals to the tile work and things like that So at the end of the project, there were seats that we purchased from Irwin Seating Company in Michigan. So there was curtains and many things that were just materials towards the end that are the majority of what we're requesting.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'd be more concerned if it was a grant, but it appears to be a bridge loan. But, so I have a little less concern about that. But I just, to our communities out there, don't come to us with projects after they're built. Okay?
And Mr. Ott, could you give us a breakdown of how much percentage of the projects were prevailing wage and what wasn't? I mean, not provide it to us. I don't want you to shoot it off the top of your head.
Yeah, I can provide that. It would be hard to do it off the top of my head.
Any further discussion? No. Senator Thompson.
So, is this going to be an operational loan for operations, or is this for to pay off something that you've already done and don't have any money for it at this point?
Mr. Ott.
So I can give you a little bit more background. This is a bridge loan, and when we get the tax credits from the state and monetize them, then we'll be able to pay the bridge loan off. And our timing on that looks like the money from the tax credits will be available in the middle of the summer. We were working with our main bank on this. We didn't want to commit to a bridge financing until we got towards the end of the project, because we were a little unsure of what the final budget was going to be, number one, and number two, we wanted to make sure we were going to finish the project and be able to make good on the bridge loan commitment when we got to that point. So earlier in this year, we started working with the bank that we have the first mortgage with, and they have a lot of collateral, but they didn't have the appetite to do more loan monies, even though they have quite a bit of collateral. The project's been almost $2 million, and the loan that the bank made was only $230,000. So there's been quite a bit of money from other equity from other projects that we've done put into this, and we were in a cash flow situation where we needed to monetize the credits, which are as good as cash, and do it before the end of the year. And we knew that earlier in the summer, and so as we wanted to finish the project on time because we had a tenant lined up to open the theater, we continued forward getting our project done, knowing that we would have to do this. And we worked with 5 other banks as well, and at least 5 other banks in the area to try to do it, but not being in first position, we ran into a lot of hurdles from them willing to make a bridge loan commitment. So that's when I reached out to the IRRB to see if it was something that we could work and partner on.
Tell me more about the tax credits. Those are a done deal, or are you know for sure you're going to get the tax credits, or how do you qualify for the tax credits?
The building was placed on the National Register, and all of the work, we've been working with a historic consultant who does these projects all over the state, and so the work was done to the guidelines of the SHPO and the U.S. Department of Interiors, and they've done the photographs. We have some people that are familiar with historic preservation projects that have come through the building, and one wrote a letter of support saying that based on what she knows about projects, it's basically as good as cash, and she was a banker as well. So I think it's something that is guaranteed that we're going to get the credits at this point.
You have that, Mr. Chairman, you have that in writing?
The State Historic Preservation Office will not guarantee that you're going to get the credits until they review the whole application. But the consultant that we've been working with, she's been on many projects, and they've all followed through and were awarded the credits as planned.
Senator Thompson.
Senator Bach is better.
Oh, I'm Senator Bach.
Well, I'm a little curious if the state tax credits or the federal tax credits are going to require payroll reports that prevailing wages was paid or not.
They don't require prevailing wages.
They're going to. They just don't know it yet.
Is that, I think the tax credits are being renewed, and so there might be new requirements on those. But the accountant's working on the cost certification now with all of the bills. Copy of every single invoice will be provided in the report to the state and the federal government.
Senator Buck.
Well, Mr. Chairman, this is a great asset for the city of Ely, and it's not the owner's fault that we're in this situation we're in, but this is the third time now, recently, one up at Lake Captogama, one at one of our townships, and now this one, where local units of government have come to us after projects are done. And I think maybe at the staff level, maybe the commissioner should just send a letter to our local government units and tell them, if you're planning on coming to us for money for a project, be aware of the statutory provisions related to prevailing wages before you start construction on it. Because these are hard to turn down after buildings are built, right? I mean, but so maybe we need a little reminder to all of our local government units from the agency.
Any further discussion on this? So I'd entertain a motion for Resolution 20-008.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by
Okay, I'll take you off the hook, Tom.
Is there a second? Second by Senator Root. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Ott, and thank you for what
Thank you.
Item number 8 on the agenda, FY20 Develop Community Infrastructure Projects, Resolution 20-015, and Mr. Ismail said that he has people in the room for each of these projects, but he will wait and see if there's questions before we start bringing them all up.
Mr. Chair and members of the board, I have 20 fiscal year 20 infrastructure grants for your review and recommendation today. Our total investment is $3.633 million from the agency, leveraged with total project investment of $41.5 million. That's $1 from our agency for every $11 put in from outside the area. I'll start with our development infrastructure. The first project is City Hibbing. The request from the city is for $350,000. The project consists of Phase 1 infrastructure and a road for the development of an industrial recycling center on a 26-acre site on the north side of 25th Avenue West. This is a route between Hibbing and Kelly Lake. The Scranton Iron Yard Recycling Center will include the construction of a new processing office building and scale house. The project also involves the acquisition and relocation of the former Hibbing Salvage. Hibbing Salvage is located downtown just off of 1st Avenue and Howard Street, and its relocation and cleanup is a priority of the city. The project is expected to create 30 permanent jobs and 16 construction jobs, and this would be the largest recycling center in size in our region. City of Grand Rapids Development Infrastructure Request.
I think we'll see if there's any board comments on each one, and then so they don't forget. In case any comments on the first one? Thank you. So if anybody on the board has something as we're going through this, thank you. Please proceed. Sorry.
Yes, Mr. Chair. City of Grand Rapids Development Infrastructure Request for $300,000. The project consists of wastewater treatment plant upgrades. The wastewater treatment plant treats both domestic and industrial effluent, and the primary industrial customer served is UPM Blend and Paper Company. Their process is conveyed through a 2-mile-long, 30-inch diameter force main, with the volume decreasing as a result of closures from paper machines 3 and 4 in 2002 and paper machine 5 in 2017, and now it takes over 2 hours for that effluent to travel, allowing bacteria to break down and causing some pretty rough foul gases to be emitted into the community. Although not completely effective, it takes costly chemical additives and calcium nitrate, hydrogen peroxide, and zinc to combat those gases. The proposed project would eliminate the use of the chemical treatment and replace it with 2 superoxygenation system units. The upgrades will improve the quality of life for the residents of Grand Rapids by eliminating odor issues altogether, and improve water quality by eliminating the discharge of those residual chemicals into the Mississippi River. The infrastructure will also significantly reduce WWTP's operations and maintenance costs passed on to Blandon through their wastewater treatment rates. The cost of effluent treatment, including landfill disposal of wood fiber product mandated by the environmental regulations, is considerably more than incineration methods permitted in other localities. For this reason, Blandon's effluent treatment disposal costs compared to the competitors in the global market are far higher. The project will reduce Blandon's significant annual expense of effluent treatment disposal from $4.7 million to $4.1 million. This will increase Blandon's competitiveness as they provide 230 jobs in Itasca County. And the project's expected to create 5 construction jobs. And this project has a huge impact in a couple different ways. So if you look at this company's competitive market being the only processing plant of this kind in North America for this company, they are not competitive operationally when it comes to these costs compared to any other plant they have in the world. Far, far off the scale. Their goal is to try to get that 4.7 down to $3 million annually. And what's at stake? There's 2 pieces to this. It isn't just the remaining 230 jobs that you have at this plant. That used to be 1,200 jobs from its inception. You also have the rates that the community will have to bear if this plant closes would probably double. The impact would be, there'd be an outcry from the community saying, how are we going to pay our rates? Because Blandon uses and pays so much right now for the operation. So this is a very, very important project for the long-term sustainability of this company.
Representative Lehman.
I just would like to, you said it so well, Chris, everything I was just going to say. I've talked to Blandon Paper Company about this project, and just like the costs that we have with the taconite plants, trying to hold down the energy costs and things that really either make or break the competitiveness of an industry, Blandon Paper Company is hanging on. And its key strategy is to hold down costs and reduce costs in order to even stay open. And so this project alone will help them tremendously in that. So more than this is community development / business survival kind of a loan. So I noticed that Itasca Economic Development is in the audience for that reason, that this is really important to the economy of the region. So thank you.
And Mr. Chair, Representative Raymond, this is, when you said that this project, it has that mix. It really is development infrastructure. It impacts a major industry, but it also is going to change what's being pumped into the Mississippi River in terms of discharge. So it has that community impact. It's going to change that smell that's put out in the community, but it also is going to impact, hopefully long-term, that the residents aren't taking a huge hit with their rates.
Senator Rude.
Mr. Chair, and I'd just like to comment on the chemicals into the Mississippi River, because that's been a big issue for us, and we have a lot of, we have a new group that's working, a legislative group that's working on the Mississippi, plus the Mississippi Headwaters Board, and so I really like the fact that this really helps the discharge and the clean water in the Mississippi River, because that's a big treasure for this state, so.
Is there only 200?
City of Two Harbors, a development infrastructure request for $85,000. The project consists of design and installation of sanitary sewer monitoring station for Castle Danger Brewery. The station will consist of a flow meter manhole and automatic sampler building, which will measure sanitary sewer flows from the brewery and take samples of the discharge waste to determine rates for the industry. The station will allow the City of Two Harbors to properly regulate and monitor Castle Danger Brewery as required by the MPCA, Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, to ensure proper treatment and protection of Lake Superior. This project is also one step in ensuring Castle Danger continues to operate in Two Harbors as they grow. They have created jobs not only within their own facilities, but have been an opener for many other opportunities in the historical downtown district. Castle Danger currently employs 41 full-time employees. There is potential for more growth and expansion, and the city wants, Castle Danger to remain a part of the community. The project is expected to create 1 construction job, and similarly to UPM, this is, as that that company has grown and their discharge has grown, who's taking on that burden? Is that burden passed off to the residents? Here, they're putting something in place to be able to really monitor and say, this is what they're discharging, this is, how it should be treated, so we're not polluting Lake Superior, and we're not, pushing rates back on to the residential folks. We can tie it directly to Castle Danger.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Community infrastructure, City of Aiken. Project is Phase 3 of First Street Northwest Improvement Project and includes water line infrastructure replacement and road reconstruction from 8th Avenue Northwest to 12th Avenue Northwest. Proposed improvements include the addition of water service connections to currently unserved properties, the replacement of an age-undersized water main along 8th Avenue Northwest to improve water system pressure and supply the west portion of the city, full depth of reclamation of First Street Northwest and reconstruction of 8th Avenue Northwest and 9th Avenue Northwest. The project is expected to create 4 construction jobs. City of Aiken, community infrastructure request number 2. Project consists of the redevelopment of the city park. First phase focuses on the construction of a new building that is the central gathering space for the city park, as well as updating a dilapidated ice rink. Currently, there is a building in the park that has been used in the past as a warming house during the winter months for the city ice rink. That will be torn down and rebuilt as a new community gathering hall. It will have multi-use space with a kitchen, handicapped accessible bathroom, a large gathering room, as well as storage space in the opposite end of the building for maintenance supplies equipment. A new multi-use hockey rink will be built and used in the summer for 4 pickleball courts, and a new parking lot will be paved. The project is expected to create 4 construction jobs. This project, we do have a focus on some infrastructure tied to that new facility and some site work and potentially supplies. So the city has requested that the money be used for materials only, and the goal in the project is to get the labor donated. So there was a concern about, do we have to pay prevailing wage? The example that I would hearken back to would be the city of Cook building what looks to be about $1 million community center. We invested over 2 grants over the course of 6 years, $100,000, because that's how long it took to complete the project, based on the fact that it was all volunteer labor pretty much on that project. So we want to impose the prevailing wage, being the average union wage in our county, on these projects when we're hiring folks. If they decide to hire folks, they'll have to pay and use our dollars, they'll have to pay prevailing wage. So.
Representative Luke.
I would just make the comment that obviously down in our part of the world, we've been trying to keep up with swimming pools and indoor ice hockey rinks. This is simply, to upgrade a long-time outdoor one and provides a place to change clothes. So to say that, though, in all seriousness, that we don't there enjoy a lot of things that I know almost everybody up here just takes for granted, like an indoor hockey rink.
Sarah Bach.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Luke, I'm just curious, how do they access $218,000 of DNR money? What pot of money do we have there that I'm not aware of that I need to let someone know? Maybe Senator Thomas knows what this pot of money is, but it seems like a pretty big chunk of money from the DNR. I get it for trails, there's different programs, but I'm unfamiliar with this pot.
We could maybe
Representative Luke.
Yeah, I say we've got Mayor Tibbetts here in the.
Mr. Mayor, if you want to come up?
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. Identify yourself for the record, Mr. Mayor.
Gary Tibbetts, Mayor of City of Aiken. And we've been very, very fortunate. You've talked about some of the grants and stuff. When we first talked about this project, we were looking at probably $500,000, the whole project. We had one of our gals step up, she does community ed, and she said, I'll lead that fundraising charge. Right now, to date, without this, they've raised just over $400,000. It's an amazing process. They've knocked on every door. They've talked to every possible function that they could to make this happen. And we're this close. So we've talked with Chris. Chris has helped us work through some of this. And we've had a community organization that just put it all together. Because as a council looked at them and said, $500,000. And everybody just stepped back and took a deep breath and said, really? And it's just, they've come through, they've worked with the DNR, we have a Bremer Foundation, we've worked with many, many other pieces in this thing, and this is kind of one of our final pieces. And we appreciate your consideration.
Well, congratulations, because is aware of the fact that the city of Cook went through this, and it took a long time to get it built with all that volunteer labor and all that private fundraising. So congratulations for the community, for the kids.
And it is, it's all about the kids.
And congratulations for finding that pot of D&R money. We got Senator Thomas money, we gotta go back and take a look.
They're hiding something from us.
Any other questions? Senator Thomas.
To Representative Lewick's comment about taking hockey rinks for granted. For those of us who were in high school and actually drilling in screws and putting up the sidewalls on a rink, we don't take any hockey rinks for granted. We know how important they are. And it sounds like you're doing the same thing with volunteer people putting the thing up.
And what I will do is, her name is Krista Olson, who's led our fight. I will get some names from you because she got everything documented. When she came to the last city council meeting, she said, I've got almost 400,000 in hand. It's like, everybody just kind of stepped back a little bit. So I will get names for you.
You won't have to go to that trouble. The DNR will be reaching out to us soon.
Any other discussion? Thank you for coming forward, Mr. Mayor.
Please proceed. The next request is from the City of Aurora, Community Infrastructure Grant for $150,000. The project consists of upgrades and replacement to the anaerobic digestive system at the city's wastewater treatment facility. System failed in November of 2018 when the primary digester experienced overpressurization, basically blew its lid, and they have to make some improvements now. The improvements include repairs to the tank cover walls and modifications to the existing piping and gas handling systems to allow safe operation. The project is needed to bring the biosolids handling facilities at the facility back into operation. It's expected to create 8 construction jobs.
Please proceed.
City of Biwabic, their request, community infrastructure request, you're going to see several of these same requests throughout this memo. The project consists of total road reconstruction, utility replacement of a segment of Highway 135 to include Main Street through Biwabic in coordination with MnDOT. The project will cover 2 phases and begin this summer of 2020 and end in the fall of 2021. The phases of road reconstruction are comprised of driving surfaces, sidewalks, curb, gutter, parking lanes. The sanitary sewer, water, and storm sewer systems will be repaired and replaced, and electrical systems will be repaired and upgraded to ensure adequate street lighting and driver and pedestrian safety. This project is expected to create 20 construction jobs. City of Biwabic has invested over $11 million in 4 years to redo the entire city's infrastructure and road reconstruction, alleyways, and then they were notified by MnDOT, we're coming in to do your Main Street. And so our intent is to allow them over the 2 fiscal years to apply twice, and phase 1 and phase 2 to put $500,000 into this project. And there'll be several other cities that we have the same projects coming.
Senator Bach.
Mr. Chairman, I apologize for my phone. My old one didn't ring for 2 years. So on Monday, I got a new one. And this one rings when it's on silent. So I'm glad I'm going to the Rams meeting because the AT&T store is right across the street. And they're going to have to tell me why it rings on silent when the old one didn't ring ever at all.
That's okay. Senator Bach, if you were at my old steelworkers union meeting, you'd have paid $5 to the beer kid every time it rang. So. Please proceed, Mr. Isman.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Senator Thomasoni.
So I'll talk to Senator Bach about his phone later, but I want to commend Biwabic for the work they're doing in their city. I mean, they've actually made a great big investment in their city that needs to be done, and I think it's incumbent on this agency to help them whenever we can. And so this is a good project, and we probably need to give them a little bit more in the very near future because they're probably at the maximum of their capacity of being able to fund whatever they can fund based on their ability to pay. And I think that we quite frankly have to consider this the gateway to Giants Ridge and make sure that their main street looks the way they want it to look and that they're able to pay for some of these things. So this is a good project.
Please proceed.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, Chisholm-Hibbing Airport Authority requested $88,000. The project consists of security and public safety fencing upgrades at the Range Regional Airport. The airport is just under 5 miles of 10-foot tall chain link fence that surrounds the airport. The fence provides public and private protection as well as keeps wildlife off the aircraft operation areas. The fence was originally installed in '01 and was repaired in 2010 to lower the fence that was damaged by frost heaving. 2010, the airport installed 5 feet of additional chain link fence to skirt the bottom of the fence so that the future frost damage would not leave those openings under the fence. Approximately half the perimeter fence received the upgrade at that time. Project will complete the remaining half perimeter fence skirting and adjust the frost heave posts and remove any unnecessary access gates. It's expected to create 2 construction jobs, and this is really a public safety hazard right now to have deer running across these runways as planes are landing, or And then we also at the airport have businesses that are operating out of that area, and anybody can access that site when the fence is sitting 4 to 5 feet off the ground. So it's a important project for the airport to remedy.
Mr. Ismail, the 10-foot height, is that standard for keeping deer out? Is that?
I'm sure the 10-foot height is good. The issue is it's sitting with a 5-foot gap, but then it's 10 feet of fence. So I don't know now if that means we're going to be at a 15-foot tall fence. I'm not sure. City of Cook, community infrastructure. This goes back to the community center that I referred to earlier. The project consists of construction of an ADA compliant ramp, sidewalks, bathrooms, and parking lot upgrades. The community of Cook and the surrounding area spent 6 years building the community center with all the building materials donated at cost and 90% of the labor donated. This 4,500 square foot community center serves the community in several capacities, but most importantly is designated as a storm emergency shelter. It is also the community polling place for elections. The city is committed to bringing the facility into ADA compliance after review by the state fire marshal. The project is expected to create 2 construction jobs. City of Ely. Community infrastructure request $200,000. Project consists of water, sewer upgrades to James Streets. The improvements on James Streets between Central Avenue and 8th Avenue East are being completed in conjunction with the St. Louis County Public Works Department reconstruction of this county road in 2020. The cooperative project allows the city to complete the utility reconstruction in conjunction with St. Louis County road reconstruction, provide a mutual benefit to residents to keep the costs for these projects down as a shared project. The project makes improvements to the City of Ely's water distribution system, sanitary collection systems, and storm drainage systems, which are essential services to the residents. Without these services, drinking water or wastewater treatment would not be available and would create health and safety problems. The project is expected to create 25 construction jobs.
Please proceed.
Embarrass Township request a $45,000 community infrastructure grant. The project consists of ADA compliant bathroom house replacement in Embarrass Township. The bathrooms have been heavily used over the years and are in disrepair. Current holding tanks for the bathrooms were leaking and are subsequently shut down. The use of porta potties have been very expensive as an alternative, and the Wayside Rest and Information Center are used heavily by tourists. The Visitor Center located on the site is a historic building with brochures for regional amenities and an old sauna for tourist viewing. In the summer months, the Visitor Center is the starting point for the Embarrass historical property tours that the township offers. The project is expected to create 1 construction job. This would be located right across from the former Four Corners diner that used to exist out there. So as we start to enter, as we get off of 135, we start to enter the township area.
Please proceed.
City of Evelyn community infrastructure project consists of water, sewer, storm sewer upgrades. $210,000 request road reconstruction of Garfield Street. This project makes improvements to the City of Evelyn's water distribution system, sanitary sewer collection system, and storm drainage systems by replacing old cast iron water lines, and clay tile sewer lines, which are exposed to city to cost maintenance increases due to line breaks. These upgrades are essential to the city's services to the residents. Project is expected to create 9 construction jobs.
Proceed.
Evelyn, Virginia Airport Authority. Project consists of the reconstruction of the south half of the existing aircraft parking apron. It's a $200,000 community infrastructure request. The existing apron is over 40 years old, and the PCI is ranging from 52 to 55. The last major repair was completed in 2000. The pavement has reached the end of its useful life with unraveling, swelling, heaving, and depressing, as well as longitudinal, transverse, block, and alligator cracking. Full depth reconstruction is needed now to extend the useful life of the apron to accommodate the loading and unloading of passengers and cargo. Reconstruction will adjust the geometry to the FAA airport design standards for safe maneuvering of aircraft. The project is expected to create 11 construction jobs.
Proceed.
City of Gilbert, a community infrastructure grant request for $250,000. This project is in line with Biwabix, City of Biwabix. This is total road reconstruction, utility replacement, a segment of Highway 37 to include Main Street through Gilbert in coordination with MnDOT. The project will cover 2 phases and begin in the summer of 2020 and end in the fall of 2021. The phases of road reconstruction are comprised of driving surfaces, sidewalks, curb and gutter, and parking lanes. Sanitary sewer, water, sewer source systems will be repaired or replaced, and electrical system will be repaired and upgraded to ensure adequate street lighting for driver and pedestrian safety. The project is expected to create 41 construction jobs. And so, you know, when we're looking at these projects, just to keep in mind, this says here, total project $6.359 million. That's phase 1. So this is not the total project. You're getting phase 1.
Please proceed.
City of Grand Marais, similar project. Project consists of total road reconstruction, utility replacement of a segment of Highway 61 to include Main Street through Grand Marais in coordination with MnDOT. Project will cover 2 phases of construction, begin in 2020, end in the fall of 2021. Phases of road reconstruction are comprised of driving surfaces, sidewalks, curb, gutter, and parking lanes, and the sanitary sewer, water, and storm sewer system will be repaired or replaced, and the electrical system upgraded and repaired to ensure adequate street lighting and driver pedestrian safety. The project is expected to create, this phase of the project is expected to create 66 jobs, so their total will be over $20 million. This is the first phase, $10 million. City of Hoyt Lakes, community infrastructure grant request, $240,000. The project consists of road reconstruction for Suffolk and Andover streets. The infrastructure improvements include removal and replacement of sanitary sewer lines, water lines, curb, gutter, culverts, stormwater, drainage improvements, manhole, street reconstruction, and bituminous overlays. The sanitary sewer lines, water lines, storm sewer system, and streets are very old and extremely deteriorated. Cities had to repair the infrastructure in these areas numerous times over the last several years. The replacement of these lines will help to reduce the amount of inflow and infiltration into the sanitary sewer system, and that'll result in treating less water and the waste plant and reducing their annual operating costs, which then flows back to the residents' costs. Project is expected to create 10 construction jobs. City of La Prairie, $250,000 community infrastructure request. The project consists of upgrading and expanding infrastructure to the Glenwood Acres area in the city of La Prairie. The upgrades and extensions include water, sanitary sewer, storm drainage, street improvements and reconstruction on Martin Street, Lorraine Drive, Sailor Street, and Marianne Drive. There is currently no municipal water and sewer to this section. All the residents in Glenwood Acres are basically on their own water wells and septic tanks. Several of those septic systems have failed, and so this is getting a community that should have been on water and sewer up to speed and alleviating that. It's expected to create 10 construction jobs. City of Meadowlands. Project consists of stormwater upgrades by replacing collapsed and heaved culverts in driveways or alleys and ditching improvements. Stormwater drainage on Elm and Cedar Streets has deteriorated. Ditches are non-functional, culverts are collapsed or heaved, creating stormwater backups during rainfall events or snow melt. In 2019, improvements were completed to Scott and Western Avenue as phase 1 of the drainage improvements. Scott and Western Avenues are the downstream side where improvements need to be made first before going upstream to the streets. The streets drained to avenues improvements during Phase 1 have been successful. The project is expected to create one construction job, and this one, we're working with our partner at CDBG, which is our deed money, to make these small repairs to a small community. City of Silver Bay, community infrastructure request for $250,000. Project consists of waste treatment facility upgrades to include the replacement of an existing 25-year-old steel primary clarifier mechanism and two 50-year-old pumps that have exceeded their useful life. These are all required for efficient primary clarifier operation. The project will also include the replacement of manual pretreatment system to an automated system, digester improvements, and dome covers in all clarifiers. The funding for the pretreatment portion has been secured by PFA. It's not part of this current legislative session. The money is in place. Engineering has been completed and public bids have been received. The project is expected to create 31 construction jobs. Final project, City of Virginia has requested through their Economic Development Authority, VEDA, $250,000. The project consists of funding VEDA with the $250,000 as part of their revolving loan fund because they currently don't have that funding capacity to assist in an ADA compliant facility upgrade project in the City of Virginia. VEDA will administer the grant funds through the revolving loan fund and provide funding as part of the facility upgrades to Arrowhead Economic Opportunity Agency, AOA's ADA compliant construction project. AOA is rehabilitating its main office building located at 702 3rd Avenue South in Virginia. The plan is for the replacement of an existing accessible entrance ramp and signage, a new HVAC system, parking lot renovation, boardroom, bathroom upgrades. This request is to assist with the replacement specifically of the ADA compliant handicapped accessible ramp and to make accessible bathroom upgrades. The total project is about $1 million and expected to create 7 construction jobs. This has been an ongoing project over the last several months. Some components have been completed, like their parking lot, but they're not at the funding capacity in that building. That building is aged and it really needs to be brought up to speed. So we'll be funding their revolving loan fund with a forgivable loan. So it will serve as a grant from the city, but it'll be administered through VEDA.
Thank you, Mr. Itzmel. Is there any questions from the board members on any of these projects? Senator Thomasoni moves resolution 20-015. Seconded by Representative Lewick. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign, motion carried. Resolution 20-016, regional trail development or trail grants. Plummer.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I'm going to go through the first 10 grant projects, and then there's an 11th that's at the end of my memo. That's a little bit different. That's Iron Range Tourism Bureau. I'll do that one last. So, Merry Christmas to everyone. So the first one is Arrowhead Regional Development Commission. Got a lot of folks here, grantees. Filtering in. This grant amount is $17,621 for a project amount of $35,242. It is to assist the North Country Trail Association and its local affiliates in its route planning of the North Country Trail in northeast Minnesota. It is attempting to locate a trail route in a predetermined corridor to complete a 150-mile gap in northeast Minnesota, and has requested the assistance with public engagement and GIS services from ARDC. It's for 3 zones within that area. Zone 2, which is near Ely, Zone 4, which is Grand Rapids to McCarthy State Beach Park, and Zone 6, the Laurentian Gap, which is the Lake Vermilion area.
Please proceed, Mr. Plummer.
City of Chisholm is the second request. The grant amount is for $30,000. The project amount is for $65,000. Northern Tracks ATV Club and the City of Chisholm are proposing to design and construct a dedicated all-terrain vehicle trail that connects the cities of Chisholm and Hibbing. The first stages of the project are: 1, the selection of a trail alignment; 2, negotiating acceptable terms from landowners; and 3, identifying any permits that are necessary. After this process is complete, then detailed trail design and construction would take place.
Please proceed.
The third project is the City of Cuyuna. The grant amount is for $82,000. The total project amount is $610,000. The grant is to complete the construction of the City of Cuyuna Connector Trail and the Cuyuna Hills Trail. Both trails are purpose-built, single-track trails for hiking, cycling, and snowshoeing. The City of Cuyuna Connector Trail is 4 miles, and the Cuyuna Hills Trail is 4 miles long. Both trails will be connected to the existing 30 miles of single track within the Cuyuna Country State Recreation Area.
Proceed.
Fourth project is in the City of Ely. The grant amount is $190,000. The total project amount is $380,000. This grant is for Phase 2 of a mountain bike trail project located at Hidden Valley Ski Area in Ely. It consists of approximately 9 miles of purpose-built trails for summer and winter use. All trails are single-track directional, low impact, and sustainable. And the first phase of trail construction was completed this year in 2019.
Please proceed.
The fifth project is the City of Grand Rapids. The grant amount is $250,000. The total project cost is $688,000. This project includes the construction of 0.68 miles of 10-foot wide multi-use bituminous trail along U.S. Highway 2, connecting the City of Grand Rapids to the City of Cohasset trails. Completing this final gap in the network will provide safe access from northwestern Grand Rapids to multiple Cohasset recreational facilities, including Portage Park and Tioga Beach.
Please proceed.
The sixth request is from Crane Lake Township, and it's for $100,000. The project amount is $700,000. Crane Lake Township is making this grant request on behalf of Voyager Country ATV Club. As part of their master plan, the project is to improve a 5.6-mile wooded trail from the resort community of Crane Lake to Vermilion Falls Picnic Area for ATV and snowmobile usage. The club considers this a priority route within their core trail system, since it avoids paved and gravel county roads and instead traverses through the woods, creating a more positive experience for riders.
Please proceed.
The seventh request is from the Lady Slipper Scenic Byway. The request amount is $200,000 and the project amount is $740,000. This project is the construction of a pedestrian bicycle connecting trail and bridge across the Mississippi River adjacent to Beltrami County Highway 39, which is known as the Lady Slipper Scenic Byway. The pedestrian bridge would allow for safe passage across the river and connect to the paved shoulders of the highway, which were widened in recent reconstruction to accommodate pedestrian traffic. The trail bridge will serve as a scenic overlook for pedestrians and provide a safer crossing for residents, tourists, and members of the Leech Lake Band of Ojibwe.
Please proceed.
The eighth request is from the Over the Hills Gang ATV Club. The grant request is for $25,000. The project amount is for $125,000. The Over the Hills Gang ATV Club is located in Emily, Minnesota, and proposes to construct a 16-mile ATV trail called the Emily Blind Lake Trail. The new trail connects Cass, Crow Wing, and Aiken counties through an approximately 75-mile loop while providing access to hundreds of additional miles of ATV trails. This is part of the 2012 Crow Wing County Comprehensive Recreational Trail Plan. The ninth request is from the St. Louis County and Lake County Regional Railroad Authority. The grant request is for $450,000 and the project total is for $1,900,000. The St. Louis County and Lake County Regional Railroad Authority is a political subdivision in the state of Minnesota and owns, manages, and constructs the Mesabi Trail. Since 1993, the Mesabi Trail has been built in segments with roughly 130 miles of trails completed and is Minnesota's longest paved bicycle and hiking trail. It connects 28 communities across 2 counties and through the heart of the Iron Range. This proposal consists of 2 significant trail segments for early 2020 construction, the Palo Tia project in Embarrass Township and a phase of the Vermilion State Park to Eagles Nest Town Hall project.
Please proceed.
The 10th request is from the Superior Hiking Trail Association. The grant request is for $60,000. The project amount is $130,000. The Superior Hiking Trail runs 300 miles from the Minnesota-Wisconsin state line through the city of Duluth to the Canadian border. The trail has been in existence for 33 years and is estimated to attract 75,000 visitors annually. The proposed Gooseberry Gap Trail construction project is located between Gooseberry River State Park and Split Rock Lighthouse State Park. It consists of 3.5 miles of new trail, which is needed due to the trail being displaced because upon the request of the private landowner.
Please proceed.
And then the last grant request is a little different. The grantee is Iron Range Tourism Bureau. They're requesting $50,000 to establish a fund for their Trails Task Force. The St. Louis County Trails Task Force has been meeting regularly since March of 2015. The members represent land managers from the DNR, U.S. Forest Service, and St. Louis County, as well as clubs, user groups, including ATV, snowmobile, road cycling, mountain biking, hiking, cross-country skiing, jeepers, and horseback riding. So this project would establish a fund administered by the Iron Range Tourism Bureau and the Trails Task Force to provide funding for existing heavy trail upgrades. They have a similar program for the Trails Task Force in Itasca County that is funded by Blandon. So that's kind of where the idea came from.
Mr. Farmer, any questions from the board? Representative Lehman.
Yeah, I was just going to say, this reminds me of the Itasca County Trails Task Force that's been in existence for probably 35 years, something like that. They've had a huge impact on coordinated planning for trails in Itasca County, so it's a good idea. I just have one question, excuse me, on these, because I'm looking and I'm trying to figure out on the Ladies Slipper Scenic Byway, it talks about the project is connecting a trail and bridge across the river adjacent to Beltrami County Highway 39. I've been trying to figure out what piece of this is in the taconite assistance area.
Commissioner.
Yeah, it is very close. It's about 1.6 miles from, we're using the language for the benefit of. Governor Walz had an executive order for all state agencies to enter into a written consultancy agreement with all the tribes in Minnesota. Well, IRRB connects, our geography touches 4 tribes. And so we have written consultancy agreements, or we're working on them, are in the works with all 4 tribes. When we met with Leech Lake, The geography, by the way, is in the Grand Rapids School District. And so we were looking for projects or ways to work with the tribes, the tribal governments, where we could find projects that would be mutually beneficial for the Taconite Assistance Area. And this Trails project seemed to meet all those things because it is regional, it touches the tourism and the local users and stuff from the Taconite Assistance Area. So we're recommending to use the language for the benefit of the Taconite Assistance Area. It's not in, though it's very close.
Senator Bach.
Well, Mr. Chairman, maybe our staff attorney can refresh our memory on what the law actually says relative to where taconite monies can be expended.
Mr. Betchka.
Sure thing. Thank you, Mr. Chair and Senator Bach. So some of our funds are restricted to use in the Taconite Assistance Area only. This particular source of funding would be it's from the DJJ Trust Fund, which was approved as part of the budget back in June. And the language that's in the statute, it's section 298.292, subdivision 2B. It says money from the trust fund shall be expended only in or for the benefit of the Taconite Assistance Area, as defined and has references the definition of the TAA. So, and we've used this language in the past, I think, to provide funding for Net Lake, and a couple of times in my 11 years I've been here. So that's the authority for it.
Senator Bach.
Well, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, I understand, except that the band is putting $2,000 into this project, and we're putting $200,000 into this project. That is a stretch to me. But what concerns me, Mr. Chairman, is, and we've been down this road. I remember when, and Senator Tomasoni was on the board, when former Senator Jim Gustafson was the commissioner here, and we spent $100,000 for the Woodland Hills Juvenile Center in the city limits of Duluth. And the argument was, well, there are range kids that go to the treatment center in Duluth, so we can spend Iron Range taconite dollars in the city of Duluth. Well, I hope Essentia Health doesn't come here, because we should, with a request for their $800 million hospital, because there sure are a heck of a lot of range people that go to St. Mary's and Duluth. I just think and I'm not going to vote against this, I'm not going to make a motion to take it out, but this is a very slippery slope. I mean, I can see, probably in January, Mr. Chairman, there is a lot of interest in this whole ATV trail network to get International Falls connected up with what Crane Lake and we're doing around Voyageurs. I can see my Coochin County commissioners coming and saying, hey, we're not in the taconite relief area, but, certainly those people that are riding the trail around Crane Lake that want to get to International Falls, it's for their benefit if you build a trail in Coochin County. And if I was a Coochin County commissioner, Mr. Chairman, I'd ask. So I just want to caution everybody, because there were hard feelings around here for a long time about spending $100,000 in the city limits of Duluth over Woodland Hills. And I mean, this is probably a great project. I wish the taconite relief area extended, a couple miles so it actually was actually in the taconite relief area. But I just want to raise that for the record.
Senator Tomasoni.
And I'm going to add my agreement to Senator Bach, because I think this is slippery slope. We have to stop doing it, even if we've done it in the past, because it's kitty bar the door otherwise. And we have to, maybe we should take those words out of the statute. Maybe that'd be the best way to do it. But the second thing I wanted to say is I want to commend the commissioner for the trails program that we've got here, because I think it's helping a real lot of people and a real lot of things. I think the ATV people, they spend all kinds of money when they come into the area, and it's a great economic development movement, and I think we have to do whatever we can to help on these trails and to make sure that we're building out the system as well as we possibly can. And I hope the people who use the Superior Hiking Trail realize that that money is coming from mining, and that we're helping them walk up and down those hills as a result of mining money, and that our taxpayers' dollars are actually really, really good things that come from mining. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I think these are all pretty good projects, and I think we have to be careful in the future about how we do that.
Comments?
I got a comment.
Representative Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On this specific Lady Slipper Scenic Byway, my big general concern about inviting this thing, my biggest concern though is the ratio between the nexus that the staff made and the ratio, 2,000 to 200,000. Now, obviously, that discounts the MnDOT money and the other things, and so we may need to look at, probably don't want to go down the statutory road, but to make sure that if we're reaching outside of the taconite assistance area, maybe there should need to be some type of a much tighter parameter on the ratio for the nexus that allows us to reach out there. So I say, because I can assure you that we've got lots of trust land in Aiken County and the Aiken School District and the Crosby School District for a band that's not even mentioned here. And I just want to make sure that we go into this in the future with eyes wide open. But I also want to echo Senator Thomasoni's comment about, particularly Mr. Plummer's been down in our area recently on a number of occasions and trying to work with the balance of we've got non-motorized trails, we've got motorized trails, and the staff is really doing a good job there because this Blind Lake connector thing, wow, we've been working on that forever.
Commissioner.
Yeah, yes. So we got on this path again through the governor's executive order on our relationship with the tribal governments. And the reminder is that these are government-to-government relations. This is not the same as our relationship with communities that are in the taconite assistance area. So we're actually dealing with another government here that has equal footing with the state of Minnesota in many ways. So so that's how we got down this path. I look at the amount of sliver of land we have with both Leech Lake and Fond du Lac particularly. And so we were looking for projects where we could work with these other the tribal governments. I want you to know that. This was very intentional. And we thought this was an appropriate thing because these trail systems are interconnected. People use them all over and everything. So I don't envision us coming back here with exceptions to this or for the benefit of all the time. And we're very cognizant of the dangers of that. But we thought that this project kind of fit what we were trying to do. It was improving our relationship with the tribal governments. And we had very excellent meetings with Leech Lake, and I think they're very appreciative. I do want to say the Lady Slipper project is a local trails project supported by local trail groups. It wasn't a band project, okay? So that's why there's not a lot of Leech Lake money in it, but there's DNR money and there's other funds coming towards it. So, and they're not done fundraising. They're like any other trail project. It's a never-ending fundraising kind of deal. So we're recommending it. I appreciate the board's support for it if you can see your way clear. But I do also hear all your concerns, and we'll take that into account as we move forward. So,
Representative Lehman.
I hesitate to comment after the commissioner's done a nice summary.
Right, go ahead.
But I just know, because I've been a part of this, and I approve of understanding and building better relationships with the tribes. I think that's important. But I represent a district, that has real needs, like Deer River. And right now, Deer River and Itasca County and the Leech Lake Band are entering into, hopefully, a memorandum of understanding on how they will work together. And so, I can see all kinds of circumstances where they would be eligible to come to the ISHRB under this premise with projects. So I always feel uncomfortable when we approve things, we're not really sure that we're in compliance with our own prior practice. So I think that if we do this, we just need to do whatever we need to do to recognize the new situation that we have today. And if it doesn't fit with the statutes as they're currently written, we need to change them. We need to do something so that we're not just saying, well, this is an exception this time and we'll do better next time. We want to feel good about what we're doing, and we should be intentional about what we're doing in this situation.
Very rude.
I just have one comment. So I think these are all really good projects that we're looking at for our trails. But I would really like all of these folks that are getting the money to really, in their plans for their new trails and for their connectors, I would like them to consider a maintenance plan and what they're going to do to maintain these once they have them built. And as we go forward, I think that's a really good question for staff to ask. What is your maintenance plan? Because we've built out all of these trails now, and they're all going to come to us because they need to be maintained. And as the time goes on, they're 10 years old, they're 15 years old, and now they need maintenance, and they have not put that into their plan. So I would just ask folks as they go forward to please think of a maintenance plan and how you're going to maintain those trails down in the future.
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner.
I believe it's in our application process, so we require the maintenance plan in our application process, so.
Thank you.
We're totally on board with that. In fact, that was the struggle with the tourism group coming to us for that fund, $50,000 that's part of this, and Itasca County's done a good job, is we wanted to make sure the rules of that don't subsidize maintenance. We want the volunteers to still have to come up with the maintenance plans and everything. So we are narrowing the eligibility of that. So, but what we've recognized is there are little parts of heavily used trails that require reconstruction, and they have the volunteers that want to do the reconstruction, but the barrier is materials or equipment rental. So, and we're actually rebuilding part of a trail. So it is trail construction, but it's smaller projects and things like that. So we're hearing what you're saying, believe me. There's a fine line between rebuilding a part of a heavily used trail and maintenance. We don't want to kill the volunteerism and the maintenance side, but we also, example cited to me, if you go between Evelyn and Gilbert on the ATV trail, that thing is used, tremendously used. And it needs work, and they have the volunteers that want to do it. They don't have the $7,000 for the materials or the equipment rental. So that little $50,000 fund, they'll have to apply, they'll have to have match, they'll have to raise money, you know. So I think that, so I guess what I'm doing is agreeing with you that we need to be very cognizant on the maintenance of these trails. And we're doing the same on the mountain bike trails. We're making sure that the bike organizations that promoted these trails are willing to maintain them and have plans and things like that, so.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Senator Bach.
Well, Mr. Chairman, our council brought up Net Lake, and we did this once for Net Lake. I just want to remind everybody, Net Lake is a very different situation than Leech or Fond du Lac. Net Lake does not have a high school. This Taconite Relief Area is drawn by school district boundaries. Its 7 through 12 kids come to 2142, a school district in the Taconite Relief Area. Matter of fact, if Coochin County was thinking about this, they would fold that Net Lake School District into 2142 and make Coochin County available. Make it part of the Taconite Relief Area. It's that simple. It's just the boundaries of the school district. So, but I just wanted to mention that because Net Lake is a different situation. They don't have a high school. All the high school kids come to a school district in the Taconite Relief Area, so it's not as slippery a slope.
Thank you. Seeing no other comments, I'll add one editorial. I think last fall we saw what the Voyager Country ATV did, bringing ATVM to our northern Minnesota. Prospectors is doing that again next year. That's 300 and some riders just from some of this each year, just from some of this infrastructure build up that we're doing. So I want to compliment the ATV groups and all the other hiking and snowshoeing groups to bring these trails forward, because it's, outdoor stuff is good for our economy and good for our district, or the Taconite Relief Area, so.
Mr. Chairman, I should add.
Senator Thompson.
That bridge that we dedicated, it was steel and wood. Perfect example of what we do up here.
And I could add, it's a very nice bridge. Mr. Cook took me for a ride on it, so, Senator
Mr.
Bach.
Chairman, it was steel and wood because I put that in law. Because the DNR was buying fiberglass bridges for trails over the water bodies they had to go over. And when I learned that, the DNR has to buy wood or steel bridges. Good move.
Seeing no other comments, Representative Sandsted moves resolution 20-016, seconded by Senator Eichhorn. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All the same sign, motion carries. Resolution 20-017, Iron Range Higher Education account. Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the board, Commissioner, this particular request, the funding source of which is the Iron Range Higher Education account. The Iron Range Higher Education Committee, which is the committee charged with advising the Commissioner on providing higher education programs in the Taconite Assistant area. The Iron Range Higher Education Committee met on Wednesday, December 4th, 2019 in the terraces on the Virginia campus of Mesaba Range College for a working session to hear program updates and consider a program funding request from the Northeast Higher Education District for investments in a center of excellence in transportation to include simulation and training. Hibbing Community College Transportation Program Faculty and Administration proposed to develop a world-class transportation simulation and training center at Hibbing Community College intended to transform the delivery of transportation-related education for students and incumbent workers across the Iron Range. The creation of a transportation simulation and training center builds on HCC's existing transportation-related programs, which include professional truck driving, or the CDL program, diesel mechanics and heavy equipment repair, and automotive technology. Advanced Minnesota, which is the customized training arm of the district, also trains incumbent workers in these areas, and their customized training programs would benefit from a new training center. Hibbing Community College recognizes that transportation of people, materials is central to the economy of northeastern Minnesota, and advancing transportation through cutting-edge training and education helps strategically position the Iron Range to be the state's leader in the transportation sector. The Iron Range Higher Education Committee approved an expenditure of up to $900,000 from the Iron Range Higher Education Fund to provide a grant to the Northeast Higher Education District for use by Hibbing Community College for the development of this center. $518,000 will be available upon the approval of the Commissioner, with the remaining $382,000 contingent on FY21 program accreditation. Also for the audience, the members of the Iron Range Higher Education Committee present today at this table are Representative Sandsted, who is the chair, Representative Eklund, who is the vice chair, Representative Lehman, Senator Tomassoni, and Commissioner Phillips. The committee also consists of one member appointed by the President of the University of Minnesota, one member appointed by the governor, which happens to be Julie Marinucci from Hibbing presently, and the President of the Northeast Higher Education District.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Any questions of Mr. Smith? Seeing none, Senator Tomassoni moves resolution 20-017, seconded by Senator Tomassoni. Any further discussion?
Wait,
He can't do both.
We did meet
Oh,
twice.
it's by Representative Sandsted, I'm sorry.
I would love
Give
to
you
have
both of them, sorry. I might add, we follow the rules we want. So, I got, now that I have that straightened out. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Resolution 20-018, Iron Range Consolidation and Cooperatively Operated School Account. Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. The Iron Range School Collaboration Grant Program supports regional multi-district collaborative initiatives that result in increased availability and access to high-quality education and training for students, teachers, and communities within the agency's service area. Education Innovation Partners Cooperative Center number 6091-50, or EIP, is an education collaborative involving 22 school districts and 5 community colleges in northeastern Minnesota. EIP is focused on creating a regional integrated learning model that will increase availability and access to high-quality education and training for students, teachers, and communities across northeastern Minnesota. In April of last year, the agency was approached to consider providing matching dollars in an amount not to exceed $250,000 to leverage the attraction of federal USDA funds to our region in a grant in the amount of $500,000. EIP has applied for and received a Federal Department of Labor Rural Utility Services grant in the amount of $500,000. And in order to leverage this sizable investment of these federal dollars into our region, the request today is for matching dollars in the amount of up to $250,000 from the agency, bringing the total amount available for this EIP project to $750,000 when combining the two sources. The main areas of emphasis for this grant will be in increased regional connectivity and infrastructure based on approved best practices, to allow greater access to aid in the growing need to address mental health issues in our region, provide telepresence units and connectivity to North Homes on the west side of our region and Range Mental Health on the east side of our region to connect with our districts, and increase the ability to provide one-to-one mental health service via telepresence for students in crisis. And again, the source of the funding for this particular request is the Iron Range School Consolidation and Cooperatively Operated School account. I do have Executive Director of Education Innovation Partners, Mr. Joe Silko, here in the audience if you have any questions for him.
Any questions for Mr. Smith or Mr. Silko, or Representative Sandstead?
Mr. Smith, can you tell the board exactly like what the vetting process looks like on a project like this?
Mr. Smith.
Mr. Chair, Representative Sandstead, typically the vetting process would be on any type of grant at the agency is the agency staff, myself and others, request information from the grantee, and we then put together the grant or the ask based on the information that's been provided by the grantee in alignment with our grant guidelines. So we use those grant guidelines that you helped us create for this particular part of the fund, and then look at the eligibility of the applicant and the project that they're going to do, and then we simply prepare the memo and bring the request forward to you for your consideration. So any information that we have as staff is provided to us by the grantee.
I have other questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair, but probably for Mr. Silko.
Okay. Representative Lisgard, well, Mr. Silko's coming up. Come on.
Mr. Chair, this grant is a but-for because of the federal, so they wouldn't get the federal funding if we did not approve the grant?
Chair, Acting Representative Lisgard, that is correct.
So this is a, Mr. Chair, this is a critical expenditure on behalf of the board for them to get the funding.
Mr. Chair, Representative Lisgard, yes, but I'm going to defer that to Mr. Silko for comment.
Welcome aboard, Mr. Silko.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Representative Lisgard, yes, that's correct. That's without the matching dollars, the $500,000 will not come in, and the whole project will go.
Representative Sandsted.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Circle, when did you apply for this grant and when were you notified that you received it?
Representative Stansted, members of the board. The exact date of application, I have to think, was last spring. And we were notified about a week ago, 10 days ago. I have an exact date of the letter.
That's okay.
Representative Sandsted.
Mr. Chair, and then as part of this grant, I understand there was a letter of commitment drafted and submitted to receive this grant. When you submitted this letter, does EIP have those funds available right now? Was that a commitment if this did not go through?
Representative Sandsted, no, in that specific letter from the chairperson, it said, from the commissioner, that it was very specific. It said that the funds would not be given out, one, if the grant wasn't approved from the federal, if we didn't receive the $500,000, and two, dependent on this board's approval of whether to move forward with it.
Representative Sandsted.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the letter of commitment came from the agency and not EIP?
Representative Sandsted, that's correct.
Okay.
Representative Sandsted.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you explain how the money is going to be used?
Mr. Sokol.
Certainly. There is 9 larger, what we call the dual screen 70D units that are going to be, 2 of them are replacement units for heavily used units at Mesabi Range Community College and at Vermilion Community College. The other 7 are within the 22 EIP districts. There are 46 smaller desktop, what we call DX80s. These are high-tech, extremely clear digital units that are basically the size of an oversized computer screen, if you will. And in fact, those are designated for each of our member districts, hopefully to provide additional connectivity for one-to-one teachers. Maybe there's a first grade teacher after school in Crosby that wants to meet with a first grade teacher in Ely. Those smaller desktop units can provide a greater access for that. There is, in fact, members of the board, we saw a great advantage, and it's totally up to the members of the delegation. There is actually equipment in there that would provide for a DX80 on each of your desktops in your Capitol office buildings, in the Senate office building, as well as the representative in the House building as well as for the commissioner's desk, so that if you want to facilitate either one-to-one or full meetings between you without having to have to travel and see each other face-to-face, there's that capability. Plus, that capability allows, if you wanted to talk to your constituents, if you had to talk to the Lake Superior School District superintendent, you're heading into a meeting, an education or something, and you wanted to find out specifically a specific document or whatever, you could see that document or see that individual and get some one-on-one great communication with your individual school districts as needed without having that travel to be involved. So I think in the third part where that might be used is rather than travel in the maze of between the 2 office buildings for face-to-face conversation between representatives and senators, you would have that capability right from your office to have a face-to-face meeting with them and multiple face-to-face connectivity that way.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A question for Mr. Betchika, if I may. It sounds like from the description that some of the materials that you described are going to be spent, or the dollars would be spent for materials going into a higher ed institute. Under the School Collaboration Fund, would that be an appropriate use?
Mr. Betchika.
Mr. Chair, Representative Sandsted, so the school account fund that we're talking about was created in 2013, offered by Sports Aid, actually. I don't think the term school is defined specifically here. there are places in statute where school is defined to mean K through 12, you know, but I hesitate to make a definitive, or have a definitive opinion about that at this point in time.
Okay.
Representative Sandstead.
Mr. Chair, thank you very much. As it exists right now, the 22 school districts within EIP are already connected, correct? Would that be an accurate statement?
Representative, thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Sandsted, that's correct.
So, Mr. Chair, as you were talking about some of the things that you'd like to do with that, that could already take place currently, correct?
Representative Sandsted, that is correct to a certain degree. We have a number of districts who have increased need, and in fact, we have some districts that are not using the current equipment at the level it could be used. We've created a list of for our member districts who have additional need and others that have surplus need. As you well know, our districts change. Of our 22 superintendents, that when EIP was originally formed, of our 22 superintendents, there's only 4 that are currently involved in the same roles they were in 5 years ago. And that change in leadership that revolving door of leadership changes the revolving door of commitment to whatever project it might be. And all we can do as a collaborative is point out the benefits of this. We offered 46 classes this year, which is 46 more than we offered 2 years ago. We currently have 300 students enrolled in those classes. Some of those students are duplicate. And if you did, doing the math, you'll find out that's a fairly low number of students. It might only be 2 students in one site and 3 students in another and 4 in another. But that's the beauty. You wouldn't be able to offer those courses at all if you didn't have that. So I can't direct leadership of an EIP doesn't want to direct leadership. We don't have the right to direct leadership of districts to get them involved if they don't choose to. All we can do is take advantage of those and provide the opportunities for those that want to.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If you were not given this grant today, would you be able to come up with the $250,000 or roughly $250,000 on your own to offset the Russ grant?
Mr. Sokol.
Representative Sands said, not probably, we are not a tax, we cannot levy. We are an education cooperative center. It's very strict in statute. We cannot do that. The only way that we can get dollars is to access funds through grants primarily, and this board is very familiar with that. They've given us 2 large grants in the past to allow us to do the programming that we're doing. And we are going to continue to need to be grant dependent or come up with some sort of sustainable funding, possibly legislative, some method. Maybe it's something similar to what has happened with ALI, where they've been able to get legislation in that is ongoing. So that's a long answer to say no. We would not be able to come up with those dollars.
Representative Sandstead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So you don't have that money in your account right now as a fund balance?
Sokol.
That's correct, Representative Sandsted.
Mr. Chair.
Sandstead.
Thank you. Members of the committee, I have some concerns with this. EIP has been around for quite a while. It was really originally put in place to bring districts together, which I think is coming, but it's coming slowly, without a common bell schedule, without a common calendar, which the 22 school districts still, after multiple years, do not have. I don't know that we're much further ahead than we were before. You yourself today explained that there's technology that's not even being utilized. In some districts, other districts may have that they're using it, or they may have an expanded need of it. But I feel like there's an imbalance on how the equipment is being used or where it's being used. I feel like there's much more work to be done internally to make this an effective program. I know one of the missing links right now is EIP was a partnership, and it was supposed to be administrative, teaching staff, all for the benefits of the student. And for about the last 4 years, the teacher's voice in this has been absent. So I'm not seeing, as an educator myself, the benefit. I'm not seeing it necessarily impact our students to the degree our pocket informed. I think that there are little pockets or cells of students that are being impacted and are benefiting from it, but it's, again, without that common bell schedule, without that common calendar, which those pieces are bargained. So the teacher unit has to be involved in this to help move those things along. I don't know that this is the right investment at this time.
Representative Lissagard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Do you or your board have a long-term comprehensive strategic plan moving forward?
Mr. Sokol.
Representative Lissagard, we do. We have what we call the VSCN, which is vision, strategies to execute those, and executions for those and measurements of such. We are currently scheduled, I believe, well, there's a doodle poll out right now to get all of our administrators and people together, board members together to do what we call a reboot, if you will, a VIP, to let's check, where are we at, where are we going, has our vision changed, has the strategies that affect that vision, do they need to change, do we have additional things that we want to do, are there some things that we would like to de-emphasize or remove, or others that we want to add more incentive to. And then at the same time, we need to come up with a comprehensive plan on how would we plan on funding that? How are those things going to move forward? So that is in the works. We're currently operating on a plan that we have in place, but that needs to be updated, and we're quite aware of that.
Representative Lissagard.
Chair. So what we're currently approving in the grant that you're going to receive federally is this to complete the vision that you had prior to this point, and then you're going to have a comprehensive plan moving forward. Is this to complete that?
Mr. Sokol.
Representative Lissagard, I think that is certainly the board and the superintendents and others who are going to input decisions. It's not mine to make, it's the organizations to make. I'm the one that they hired to fulfill that. This does provide, you'll notice it replaces some equipment that's aging. It does provide additional connectivity. I'm excited about the connectivity to our mental health providers on the anchors on each side of the range. That will help to keep kids in school if there is a need. We got certainly maybe some HIPAA issues to work through. This is a thing that's happening nationwide now, is this mental health, addressing mental health issues through telemedicine. That's why this is a telemedicine grant. It's happening nationwide. We have to work through some of those rules for that, but it's also going to provide there's a CEUs for teachers that they need in the area of mental health. This will provide, they can get that after school sitting in front of a unit from the range mental health providers themselves, and help to provide some of that without having that travel and time away from classes and their students. So there's a great component of excitement to this. We only know how emphasized it gets, or continued emphasis it gets, from the direction we get from the board and the informants that we have, and as we move our reboot along.
Representative Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One more question. Were all of the EIP board members aware and in support of this request coming before the board?
Mr. Sokol.
We had yes, Representative Sandsted. There's been a request for the Russ grant in front of them, and they've been updated on this, and the superintendents have been updated about that request at every meeting that we have at District 27-28 SUPS, and at every board meeting that we've had since April, when we were in application for it, I believe it was. So they're all aware of it, as far as the resolution, that was presented last night, because it's my understanding they need a resolution that says that you'll accept the money. We need to accept the money if the board chooses to give it to us. So that was approved last night at the board meeting.
Mr. Chairman. Senator Thompson.
I think we got to pass this. I was at that superintendent's meeting on December 6th, and I heard almost exactly the same testimony, so all the superintendents heard this before. I think anytime you can leverage $500,000 from the federal government with $250,000, you got to go for it. And I think if this is an opportunity, another opportunity to educate our kids, and it's a way to go forward, I think we should give it a shot. We should probably get a group together and find out exactly what everybody's thinking as far as EIP is concerned, and maybe have a discussion so that the board members feel more comfortable with whatever it is we're doing here today. But I'll move this resolution, Mr. Chairman, because I think I think it's worth the investment.
Motion by Senator Thomasoni, second by Representative Blewett to move resolution 20-018. Representative Sandstead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the equipment that's being talked about, would it be a possibility that the school districts could approach the board directly rather than through EIP if there were infrastructure needs? I know that we have, as part of our public works, or we used to have like a broadband infrastructure grant process here. Could they just be coming to us through that? Would that be a more appropriate place for this, perhaps?
Commissioner? Mr. Chair. I'm not sure that that's a broadband project. Broadband is usually
Infrastructure.
well, right, but it's usually infrastructure by a broadband provider coming, looking for a local match for the state border-to-border money. And we haven't been in K-12 until we got involved in this school collaboration fund, so I'm not sure that we've had historic place for a school district to come for this kind of money. I would say, and I mean this, so when we're approached by people for these support letters from time to time, so it's not just EIP. We get other groups that come here. So we look at them and say, well, would they fit our programs? And clearly, we've funded EIP in the past. And then we always put the hook in that it needs to be approved by this board before we would put our money on it. But to come for a pre-approval doesn't seem to make a lot of sense because so many of these things don't get any funding. We'd be coming here for pre-approvals for all kinds of things. So that's why we look at it, and we looked at the EIP proposal. It seemed to fit our programs. We gave them a conditional approval letter, conditioned on the board action today. And that's how we got here, really. It fit in the school collaboration fund, and he has to have his board. We asked the question when we started out, do all the school districts, do they want this? And the answer was yes, so that's how we got here.
Representative Lisgard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say I agree with Senator Thomasoni. You know, this is a but-for situation. But me being new, I also agree with Senator Thomasoni that I would like to learn more where your vision is and, you know, some of that. So if we could be a part of that, I'd appreciate it.
Representative Lehman.
Yeah, I comment in a question, comment in support of Liz Lagarde and Thomasoni's suggestion that this EIP was a legislatively created entity, and it sounds like we don't really have a good handle on what it's doing or what its strategy is, and is it successful, is it accomplishing what the legislature hoped it would. I think we should take time to do that so we don't, you know, this is the first time EIP has come to us with something like this. But then the other thing I have is a question for you, Mr. Silko, and that is, you know, Itasca Area School Collaborative had a telepresence, I don't know, way back. And I see, I think almost all the IASC members are in this deal except for Grand Rapids. Can you just tell me about that? Grand Rapids isn't a part of this.
The grant was specifically written based on needs and guidelines that are into the grant. And a lot of the guidelines have to do with sparsity of population. And, for example, you talked earlier about Net Lake, and the Net Lake is listed in this, even though they're not a taconite district, et cetera. Grand Rapids didn't have the need for equipment. They're one of those districts that does not use telepresence as much as some of our smaller districts do. And I believe that's because they can offer more of the classes. They don't have to have calculus coming in off-site, for example, via telepresence. So they got a large enough student population that they can justify the expense of 2/10 of a teacher for that. So they're one of those districts that don't. So it's just specific. Now, once the equipment comes in, it becomes EIP's equipment, and we have to deliver it according to federal grants to the site that it's specified for. But if it's not use. For example, in the last grant Russ grant that we received 3 years ago, 2 years ago, whatever it was now, Crosby Ironton was a recipient of equipment, but did not want or need to use that equipment. We had to leave it there for about a month till we got everything straightened out with the feds and stuff, and then we relocated that equipment to Keewatin Elementary, where they had a big need for it. So we're very cognizant about being flexible with that equipment moving around. And again, it's a long answer and an example of how Grand Rapids didn't qualify based on student population for placement. It would have hurt our rating scores for the grant. It would have hurt the score that we had. So we purposely did not do that. Now, if Grand Rapids came up with the need, they could address that through our list of excess equipment or movability of equipment once we receive it.
Just a follow-up question. If Grand Rapids has enough teachers and enough demand, couldn't they be a provider for some of the content?
Representative Lehman, bingo. That's exactly what I promote it constantly to our superintendents. But again, I cannot dictate leadership and wishes they want to go. We could offer so many more classes collaboratively if we would be collaborative and do that. But it's difficult. It's difficult for me to run the curriculum guides, impossible for me to run the curriculum guides in all 22 school districts.
And that, just one final question, and that goes back to the common bell system, I imagine. I was just at a meeting with ACCESS yesterday, and they touted again, they had somebody from outside the area come in, and he said, you have something really special here, and that you've all agreed to common bell system. And because that, there can be so many more collaborative programs that they have. They're talking about career pathways and things like that. But is that the issue? Is that why it's tough for Grand Rapids to be a content provider, because there's not a common bell system?
Representative Lehman, I think from the outside looking in, it looks like it could be and should be the issue. If I can't take a third-hour class because our bell schedule is 20 minutes different or 15 minutes different or 10 minutes different, or we don't have a common calendar. I'm Lake Superior School District and Cook County School District, and you're on a 4-day-a-week deal, and everybody else is on a 5-day week. But we have commitments for all of superintendents and principals that no student will be denied an opportunity to be in a telepresence course based on availability of the building in the case of a Friday at Lake Superior in Two Harbors High School. They'll make sure the building's open so that student can get in there for that 5 o'clock class. No, and most of our students that are taking these courses, and I can't say most of them, but a lot of them, they're the kind of independent students that they're quite comfortable. The principals allow them to get up and leave 3 minutes early from one class to go to another class so that they're not missing anything, and then come in maybe 3 minutes late to another class or whatever it might be. In other words, the commitment is there to not let schedule of the calendar year or schedule of bell schedule prevent. And if you look at our bell schedules across the 22 school districts, 15 of them are within a minute of each other in most periods. So we're getting closer and closer and closer. And as Representative Sandstead earlier said, it's a Ed Minnesota and union and management school boards issue. It's master agreement stuff, and getting common schedules and stuff. You can lay it on the calendar, but it might be the next 2 years or the next 4 years of contract before you actually get something really accomplished in that.
Representative Sandstead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is there a way that this could be potentially tabled until we could do like an analysis of the money that's been spent that's actually going to effective programming, who's utilizing it, how it's being utilized, how many kids are using it versus administrative costs or overhead, etc.?
I'm going to have to defer to the parliamentarian. We have a motion and second on the floor, so I would have to question whether that's possible. Mr. Bishop.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'll defer on making any ruling on this. The board has never technically adopted any rules, so.
Mr. Chair, Unfortunately, our prices we need to commit to the order by January 1st to hold pricing.
So I would rely on whether the maker of the motion wants to withdraw his motion, Representative Sampson, and he's indicated. Any other discussion? Mr. Sickle, I'll have one final comment. It seems to me that an important part of this group is missing. I think you need to reach out more strongly to the collective bargaining units and make sure that they are a full partner in this process rather than meeting with the superintendent, so that I think that may be the easiest to fix your bell problem and bell schedule and starting schedule. So that would be my recommendation. I would like to see the next board meeting when you guys come back to see that has, at least the initial part of that has happened. Mr. Sokol.
Mr. Chair, I appreciate and definitely take note and take heed to your suggestion. I want the board members to know that we do have a K-12 teaching rep on our board as ex-official member, as we have higher ed ex-official member on our board and higher ed administration on our board as well. So, you know, our intent was to keep them in some communication and hope that they would help provide communication to others, as well as through our member superintendents and administrators communicate with theirs. We do send copies of all of our minutes to each of the respective bargaining units that we have been provided mailing addresses and addresses access to, and in some we haven't been able to get those addresses because it goes against, I think, some of the guidelines of Ed Minnesota, but we asked the soups then to stick them into the presidents of their bargaining units mailboxes.
Thank you. Commissioner.
Well, you know, from time to time when we've had issues that the board struggles with, you know, like these, we've appointed a working group occasionally. We have to be careful with open meeting laws, so maybe 3 members or something like that. I would defer to Mr. Betchka on the size, though. But have a working group that could work with the EIP board or the superintendent's group, or we have staff attend most of these meetings. Roy attends, but if the board wants to have a little more interaction on this, that might be a solution. I'd leave it up to the board to decide whether they wanted to do something.
We'll have
like
that discussion after.
Okay, that's
that.
fine.
Representative Sandstead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to share with members of this board, the ex officio member is a teacher, but without a voice, without a vote. And that he is the only individual on the EIP board representing teachers or the teacher voice or the students, and other than, well, I shouldn't say students, but the teachers. And the meetings are held during the school day when the teacher cannot attend. So there is no representation. And we have brought that to EIP. URSU invited EIP to one of their meetings probably close to 2 years ago. And we had a very robust discussion about this exact issue. We were promised that there would be improved communication, and there has been none. So as it is right now, this is really a superintendent group. And as I see it, I think EIP is acting as a pass-through for school districts, where I think school districts could be coming to this board perhaps and requesting money for whatever they need appropriately through the collaborative fund. They wouldn't have to be going through EIP to do this if there was a need. The school districts pay dues to EIP. As I looked through some of my materials today, it didn't look like any of the districts were even asked to contribute to offset this amount, this $250,000 ask. So I don't know. I'm just going to share that.
Mr. Sokol.
Representative Sampson, a couple of just corrections, if you will. The board meetings are held after school. They're at 3:30. The K-12 rep attends most of those. And there's also a higher ed rep, faculty rep that is on there. As far as contributions, each district pays, to be an EIP, pays $6,000 per entity plus $1 ADM. So you take the largest district like Grand Rapids with 4,000 kids, pays $10,000. And our smaller district, smallest district, well, it used to be, is probably Net Lake with 6,036, because they have 36 ADMs currently in the school, the elementary school. So there is contributions made in kind, contributions back, and most of the dollars that we do go through, run the office and programming and staff that we have that does stuff, and so, like I said, we're grant dependent on any of the larger programs that we run.
Any further discussion? There's been a motion, a second, on resolution 20-018. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no.
No.
Motion carries. Item 12, resolution 20-019, Central Iron Range Sanitary Sewer District. Commissioner.
We have a resolution, under the statute that created the Central Iron Range Sanitary Sewer District, that this board has an appointee. We ran a process here, I think in 2015, I'm not sure, 15 or 16. And Scott Allison from Chisholm volunteered to be our board rep. He's done a good job. We get feedback from him on what's going on. We get all the minutes of the board meetings and everything. I think we're fulfilling the statutory requirement of oversight. So I'm recommending that we reappoint Scott Allison to be our rep of the board. And I'd answer any questions if there are any.
Any questions? Senator Thomasoni moves appointment of Mr. Ellison to the board, seconded by Representative Sandsted. Further discussion, Senator Thomasoni.
Oh, he's done a great job.
Okay.
I should say.
Right. All in favor of the resolution, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank the audience for your patience, and wish everybody a Merry Christmas. We're adjourned.
Merry Christmas.
I got
I'm still here for another couple hours.